Well, the headlining event this past weekend was the Grade 1 Haskell Stakes. It was won by Journalism, another Grade 1 victory on his resume. And so far in 2025, of course, no doubt he's been one of the top 3-year-olds this year. He comes into wherever his next start is going to be with 6 starts on the season and 4 victories. And that is going to be part of the conversation, at least for now. Where is Journalism going to show up for his next race? We know the final destination, and that is going to be the Breeders' Cup Classic on November 1st. But Caleb, you and I can sort of put our owner and trader hat on. We'll go through the pros and cons of each major race. And when you look at the Grade 1 races, these are the races that are going to be in the conversation of the Travers, Pacific Classic, Pennsylvania Derby, and even the Goodwood in later September.
Well, when you look at the Travers here, obviously that would be a race where you'd have to face your old foe in Sovereignty. Plus, it'd give you a long 10 weeks. Now, Joaquin, I believe in the history of the Breeders' Cup Classic, only one horse has come in fresh from the Travers to win the Classic, and that was Arrogate.
Right.
We saw Essential Quality tried to do it and ran a bit of a flat third. So this 10 weeks is no bargain. Plus, the Travers, you had to face Sovereignty.
I would say the negatives for the Travers, too, would be another road game, right? When you look at the traveling that he has done, Kentucky Derby, Preakness, Belmont, we just showed you the Haskell. You've already had 4 straight road games, right? Do you want to make it 5 straight road games? And then you highlighted the other negative, I would think. You're not going to squeeze in another race after the Travers, right? Before the Breeders' Cup Classic. That's a long 10 weeks. So as great as the season has been so far, I don't know. I'm tilting on the side of I feel like they might pass the Travers.
Yeah, I think that the one we're all hoping for, especially here at the network, is definitely the Pacific Classic. Could be a showdown, Nisos versus Journalism. But when you look at the Pacific Classic, in my mind, Del Mar, especially the Pacific Classic indeed, has been one of the absolute hardest races to ship into. Look at the last 20 years. The last time a shipper that wasn't in California won the Pacific Classic was Dullahan, and that was on the synthetic. So you got to go back like 20 years. If he could run the Pacific Classic, now, as you allude to, you'd have the home court advantage going into the Classic. Now, timing-wise, I got to be honest. Timing-wise, I like this Pennsylvania Derby because he could get a nice, almost 2-month freshening. I like the 6 weeks back. That timing-wise looks great. The Goodwood, I don't like the timing here. Too long and then too short into the Classic. So this is what I'm hoping for as a fan, the Pacific Classic. Timing-wise, though, that Pennsylvania Derby looks quite nice, and he would lord over that field, you'd have to imagine.
Okay, so the Pacific Classic on August 30th, it would be 6 weeks after the Haskell, after the Pacific Classic. That now gives him 9 weeks into the Breeders' Cup Classic on November 1st, right there at Del Mar. Okay, I would say a couple things about the Pacific Classic that would be the positives. It's a 1.25 miles, right there at Del Mar. Of course, that applies to the Breeders' Cup Classic right there. And when you're in a race this close for an Eclipse Award for the champion 3-year-old, well, you kind of need to check a box that Sovereignty doesn't have right now. Wouldn't a win against older horses do that?
It could. Now, how about this? August 23rd and August 30th, there's a great chance he would not even be the favorite. Because assuming Sovereignty, runs his game there in the Jim Dandy, Sovereignty would be the favorite in the Travers. And also, Nisos is coming off a career best 108. Bob Baffert, he's a nip away from being undefeated. I could definitely see as much of a fanfare as Journalism. I could see Nisos being favored in the Pacific Classic.
He'd get a weight break as a 3-year-old in the Pacific Classic as well. The Pennsylvania Derby on September 20th, I feel like I would take the logic in the Travers and I'd apply it to the Pennsylvania Derby. I do like the spacing a little bit more. 9 weeks after the Haskell. If you run in the Pennsylvania Derby, now it's 6 weeks to the Breeders' Cup Classic. Do you really want another road game at this particular moment when you have viable options at home?
I think that Aaron Wellman has supported the marquee races. Look at Locked for Aaron Wellman and Eclipse. They are partial owners here of Journalism. Well, Locked could have run in the $20 million Saudi Cup, but instead they go to the $300,000 big cap because, it's a prestigious race. It's a Grade 1, and they got the victory. So Wellman is a racing guy true and true, and it really has certainly a lot of appreciation for that. Now, I wanted to come back to a horse we mentioned here, the horse that won the Travers, the only horse to win the Classic off a Travers layoff being Arrogate. Now, Arrogate and California Chrome had a rivalry. It was brief. It was only for a few months, the Breeders' Cup Classic and the lead into the Pegasus. Now, even though Arrogate was probably the slightly better horse, just like Sovereignty right now might be the slightly better horse, California Chrome was the most popular. And Journalism right now that we're talking about is the most popular horse in racing.
And the two most popular 3-year-olds, Journalism, and of course, your Kentucky Derby winner and Belmont Stakes winner in Sovereignty. Even the Goodwood, it's just an option just because why would you not keep all your options open? It's right there at Santa Anita, late September. Maybe if for whatever reason Journalism tells them, look, man, I'm tired. I need a little bit of a longer break. All right, they got the 10 weeks, and then boom, you tighten the screws 5 weeks into the Breeders' Cup Classic. But it's all part of the conversation as Aaron Wellman and the team and Michael McCarthy, as they've done all year, they've just said, Journalism, we will go off his cues. When he tells us he's ready to run, then that's when they'll make a decision. So all the options, at least as of right now, are open. And we'll see what the team eventually decides.
And one final point, if we can just come back on camera real quick, because I wanted to explain this one. We're in the day of lightly raced horses. So you want a lot of time. You know, this is what trainers want. They want a lot of time. Don't forget, it is possible a horse like Accelerate won the Pacific Classic, record margin of victory, and then came back and won the Goodwood before winning the Classic. So here's a horse in Journalism who has run in every single race. I wouldn't put it past them to have not just one, but 2 destinations potentially leading into the Classic.
And a horse that's potentially going to have 8 starts in his 3-year-old season in 2025. When you look at Journalism and his sire in Curlin, they're actually eerily similar. When I was looking at the past performances, did you do this too? When you started to look at it, even from they run a bang-up race in the Derby, they win an epic Preakness Stakes, they both run a bang-up race in the Belmont Stakes. Curlin actually lost the Haskell Invitation. Journalism wins the Haskell Stakes as well. But then, if you remember Curlin, he faced older horses in the Jockey Club Gold Cup and won. That is something that certainly is on the table if they wanted to do that with the Pacific Classic.
And with Curlin, we know that at the end of his 3-year-old campaign, as you talked about, he won the Breeders' Cup Classic. But get this, he was better at 4.
Right.
And toss out the Breeders' Cup Classic. We know what happened there. Synthetic track. Basically ended the synthetic era for Grade 1 racing. But Curlin was amazing at 3 and got even better at 4. I don't think we're going to be privileged enough to see Journalism at the age of 4, but based on the pedigree, don't forget Vino Rosso, a son of Curlin, was good at 3, was excellent at 4. This is a bloodline more than others that is still projecting forward.
All right, so there's plenty of options for the team. No reason for them to make a decision right now. He's barely getting back to California off his victory in the Haskell Stakes. So we'll sit back and we'll wait and see where Journalism is going to show up for his next start in 2025.